hosts. I'm Diane Bortoletto.
And I'm Monique Ciccardo.
Let's do it.
Hello, and welcome to And Away We Go F1 podcast, a Formula One podcast that goes beyond the track limits to talk about travel, food, and lifestyle surrounding the sport. I'm Diane Bortoletto, your pre-Drive to Survive Formula One fan, and today I'm in a very wintry Margaret.
And I'm Monique Ciccardo, your post-Drive to Survive fan, and today I am in Stavanger in the southwest of Norway, also slightly wintry, even though it's summer.
Well, you're there for a few more days at least before jetting off somewhere warm in Europe.
Exactly, before proper summer. So yes, very exciting. Next episode, I'll be bringing to you from Croatia. So we're here.
Yeah, lucky you. Well, we've just had the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. It's the longest race in the calendar at 7 kilometres or 7.07 kilometres, 44 laps, and a sprint weekend as well. So lots of racing action that actually matters and counts towards points, which I always like.
It was a good way to come back after not having a race. You don't have a race and then you've got a weekend full of racing. It was just...
That's right. And I was starved of Formula One for 3 weeks. So great to be back with a race weekend. All right, 3 words for the Belgian Grand Prix, Mon.
Wet, slightly boring.
My 3 words were very similar. It was like exciting, then fizzer. Exciting, then fizzer was because the race did kind of fizz out after the first few laps, and then it was just, and the delayed start because of the torrential rain that came down as well. Like the start was delayed by nearly an hour and a half.
We did manage to get a Formula One race, but everyone was so frustrated at the start, and it was making me laugh watching those, I think there was 3 or 4 laps behind the safety car. And it was making me laugh, but also very frustrated hearing the radio messages and everyone's like, let's just get racing, except for our pole sitter who was like, oh, no, it's really wet on the left side or on the right-hand side of the grid still, like too wet compared to the left-hand side. And I was like, oh, boo-hoo.
Exactly, because he knew he was going to be a disadvantage if they had a standing start. So
exactly. We probably should say who pole sitter was. It was Lando Norris. Yes. So Lando was the one that was like, no, it's still too wet.
Lando on pole, Oscar Piastri qualified just behind him in second place. And then Charles Leclerc in third and Max Verstappen in fourth. And that order was almost the same across the finish line, except 1-2 was swapped over with Oscar Piastri taking the win, which is exactly what the Australian needed for his world title fight. So, taking the win at Belgium. So just run through the sprint results, Mon.
So it was an interesting one, actually, because it was very similar. Well, this happened before the race, obviously, but Verstappen qualified in second, Piastri in pole. And Verstappen overtook Piastri pretty much straight away. And at the same time, that very same lap, we saw Leclerc, who qualified in fourth, overtaking Norris, who had qualified in third.
Oscar was on pole, Max on second, Lando third, Charles on fourth in qualifying. And then in the sprint itself, Max, Oscar, Lando, Charles.
Yes, so Lando overtook Charles again. Yes. I found it really interesting because Verstappen was so aggressive in that first lap. And then what happened in the race? Piastri did exactly the same thing on Norris. He had some cojones to do that.
That was a mighty brave move, Oscar's overtake when the race, it was a rolling start. And on that chicane, Oscar just braked super late, got in front of Lando. And it was just it had me shouting at the TV. So it was a race where lap 1, I was like shouting at the TV. And then, it was a 44 lap race. And by lap 28, I was struggling to keep my eyes open because it was super late in Australia, of course.
I was up and jumping and screaming and shouting, watching that overtake because he was riding so close to the back of Norris, and the spray was ridiculous because remember we started on inters, so it was a very, very, very ballsy drive. The result itself was really interesting too because Lando was the only one in the field to try a different strategy because he knew that obviously when everyone's on inters and the track starts to dry out, we need to go in and change over to slicks. And because Piastri was ahead, he got the choice pit stop. So he got to pit stop when he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He got priority. So Lando had to do another lap on inters, which really, really, really did not help him. And then he decided to take hard tires and try and, like, very last minute, decided to take the hard tires and just run till the lap of the race, which was really, really clever because nobody knew if they were going to have to do a second stop or not on the mediums.
Exactly. And no one knew if there was going to be a safety car either. So that's,
more rain.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, there was a tiny touch, little bit more rain, but not very much. So yeah, there were lots of things at play in the race. There always are, aren't there? Always lots of unknowns. You just don't know how it's going to play out. But yeah, with the weather, a wet, greasy, drying track. So I thought that was a smart move as well, going on hards for Lando. And it was just not luck, but talent and management that Oscar was able to manage his medium tyres that he was on and nurse them through to the end and take the win with that and not have to have another pit stop for tyres. So,
because I think he managed something like 32 laps on those mediums, which when you looked further back in the field, I know Hadjar was having a really hard time on the mediums. I think he and Sainz burnt through the mediums real quick and had to pit stop again, which obviously lose track position, you lose a good 20 odd seconds. And that was what Norris and Norris's camp were banking on. Real smart. They were banking on Piastri having to take another stop. So hats off to them for trying something different and giving us a little bit of like, oh, what's going to happen? Because that was pretty much the only like excitement in the race, aside from our lovely Ferrari driver, Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. Watching Lewis work his way up through the field I thought was spectacular. Ferrari's had an upgrade. The Ferrari drivers seem a little happier with the car. It's not perfect, although Charles did have to say to his engineer during the race, leave me alone. Like he was concentrating on what he was doing and didn't need the information that his engineer was giving him. But for Lewis, who started in the pit lane for a change of power unit, he finished in 7th. So, in those conditions, a brilliant result for Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely. Driver of the day. He was just overtake after overtake. I think he had 3 or 4 overtakes on one lap. I mean, it's a long lap, so you can fit a lot in, but still, it's pretty incredible to pick your way through that many people. It's like a Verstappen-esque drive. It's a Hamilton of a couple of years ago. So it was really, really cool to see, and it gave a little bit more excitement because up the front, we were kind of sitting waiting to see whether or not strategy would play out and which way that would go. Verstappen in 4th was stuck behind Leclerc and just could not make a move. And Leclerc was defending well.
Oh, he did such a good job keeping an angry Max Verstappen behind him. And Max we know his driving style. He is a risk taker. He pushes the car to the limit and then some. So I think Charles Leclerc did a fantastic job in maintaining third position and keeping Max at bay and getting on the podium. Fantastic to see Ferrari on the podium.
Yeah, it was a nice podium. I was happy with that. And I couldn't help thinking during the race, especially the last few laps, like let's say the last 15 laps or so after Norris had taken those hard tyres, all I could think about was you talking about the commentators and their British bias, their Lando bias. Because, here I am, I watch F1 TV, and so we've got some British commentators too, but not the same that you do. And I was always like, no, the commentators are so much better. But this race, I was like, shut up. Stop talking about Norris. Like Piastri's doing so well out the front,
Exactly.
holding ground. And they're like,
Exactly.
oh, Norris has got a real good chance here. He could potentially do it if he does this. I'm like, how about Piastri winning right now? So, like,
And do you know what else? Do you know what else they did here on the Sky feed, which is what we get in Australia on Fox and KO, was that they kept cutting to Lando's mum in the McLaren garage. Now, Nicole Piastri was also at the race, and I don't know if you saw the clip of her with Yuki, which was so, like, before the race, which was so cute. She loves Yuki Tsunoda and calls him her adopted son. But they kept cutting to Lando's mum, and Pinkham was like, oh, we love Lando's mum, Lando's mum. I'm like, stop, would you please? And the other really annoying thing was before the race start, Martin Brundle said, I've got to ride my motorcycle back to England, so we need to get on with this race. And he kept going on and on. Well, they could start now. They probably could have started this like 15 minutes ago. Like, kept going on and on and on about the delay. And it was like, because we knew, well, I picked up that, like everyone, that he was driving his motorcycle back to England from Belgium, and he had a long ride ahead of him. Obviously, like, you could just tell that it was like self-interest as well. He wanted the race.
God.
I mean, we all wanted the race to start, but it was getting a bit annoying at the end, and I was yelling at the TV as well, just going, shut up, just because you have to ride your motorcycle. But also the start of the race, they changed the song.
I don't get this because they didn't change it on F1 TV.
Yeah, so the opening of the Formula One telecast normally has the F1 theme song, that classical music that's very powerful and emotive and
Fabulous.
iconic. Fabulous. We love it. And then they had the F1 movie theme song with the same drivers doing their poses, positions at the start. And I was,
No.
It's also on Formula One's Instagram page, so you can check it out. And look, take it on its own, that piece of music, I like it. It's great. And that piece of music with the drivers, it actually works. It looks great. But don't change it because the F1 theme song is iconic. It's iconic.
It's like changing an AFL theme song to a ballad or something and just like hard launching it at a game and everyone being like, what the hell? You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. No.
They were getting a lot of hate for it as well on the comments. Yeah, so...
Look, I'm not surprised. And also, like, great, F1 movie, you've got that. That's fantastic. Milk it. But does it have to infiltrate literally every single part of the actual Formula One sport? Like, can we leave something sacred?
Yeah, it's a one-off because... But, if they were going to do a one-off, wouldn't you do it the week the movie launched? Like, not 3 weeks,
right?
4 weeks later? I don't...
And anyway, why one broadcast but not the other? So...
Yeah.
I just find that very odd. When you said that they were cutting to Triska in the McLaren garage, and you're like, but Nicole Piastri was there too. So was Piastri's granddad.
I saw him hug him after the race. It was so cute, yeah.
Can we have more grandparents at the races supporting? I think that's so cute. I just think it was so wholesome and so sweet. And for them to, we only really knew that he was there because of social media after the races. Actually, after the race, they did kind of zoom in on him. But I did also hear, and I found this quite funny, I think Brundle was the one that said it, Martin Brundle. He was like, Piastri is basically horizontal. He is that, like, laid back and cool, calm and collected. And I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Just to hear the way that people talk about his demeanour, I find really funny. He's never, ever going to be able to shake that, like, just way too relaxed, calm, collected kind of.
It's awesome.
Persona.
I love it. But he sounded really happy at the end of that race on the team radio.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, So I'm super happy for him. And I kind of had a feeling, I think I predicted him to win in our last race episode. Yeah, he just comes back fighting. Like, he doesn't get angry. He gets even, like he just.
Yeah. And he doesn't get sooky and try and get things to play out his way because one side of the starting grid is wetter than the other, or so.
Mm.
But I have a question for you, because there's been a lot of kind of noise about Antonelli at the moment. What do we think
Okay.
about that situation there? Because obviously he's not had the greatest last few weeks.
No, and he actually looked like he'd been crying when I saw an interview with him over the race weekend. Might have been after the sprint. And the actual interviewer asked him, like, are you okay? You know, he said, yeah, I'm fine. But he looked like his eyes were red, like he was visibly upset. Look, I think Antonelli is probably putting a lot of pressure on himself. Like he started the season off really strong, at his first podium, and he's a rookie. He's still learning. So, of course, there's going to be ups and downs, and he's on a down at the moment. And I feel like the pressure that's on Kimi Antonelli is mostly probably coming from himself. I'm not hearing noise from the outside about him as such.
I tend to agree with you there. I feel like it's very much, he's had his confidence dented, and we've seen it time and time again with different drivers when your confidence just keeps getting battered week after week after week. So it happens once, and it's hard to come back from that. It's really hard to come back from that, especially if there's like another little blip somewhere and you keep getting battered, and it's really hard to pull yourself out of that and I guess find your feet again. And then for a rookie, even harder, because all you can think about is these seats are so hotly contested.
And all the Max Verstappen chatter as well about Max going to Mercedes, Toto and Max being spotted in Sardinia. You know, on the Sky feed, they showed Jos Verstappen being interviewed on the grid by Nico Rosberg. God, I love Nico Rosberg. He just goes in there and asks the tough questions. He's just not afraid to. He's just not afraid of people's reactions or what they might think of him, and he just asks. You know, and
I hate his hair.
Yeah, well,
sorry, continue on.
Nico asked Jos about Christian Horner's gone now. You must be happy, and Jos was just trying to avoid answering the question. And Nico's like, well, so you're silent now? Like you weren't silent before. You said that he had to leave. And Jos is like, that was different. That was different. Now, you know.
And he said, I'm always quiet.
Yeah.
Like,
like when?
Yeah.
No.
But it was like, it was trademark Verstappen avoidance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Verstappens are good at that. Yeah. I did see that. And I'm kind of watching this whole situation with Verstappen, Mercedes, Antonelli, because we have said before that we don't think that Antonelli is going to be booted from F1 when they've taken such a big risk to, and the whole point was to take on someone young and foster them and bring them up through Formula One.
They might do with Kimi what they did with George. Well, so they lent George out to Williams when Williams was a bottom team to help George develop, and then brought George into Mercedes. So they might do the same with Kimi if Max indeed does move. But I feel like under, I nearly said Andrea Stella there, Laurent Mekies, who's now the team boss of Red Bull after Christian Horner got the boot, first Formula One race where Red Bull hasn't had Christian Horner there. I feel like that Max is not going to leave now. I can't help but feel that Horner getting the boot was an ultimatum. Either Max will go or Horner goes. You decide. Yeah. And I feel like that the board of Red Bull Racing made that call.
They need Max. If they don't have Max, like no other driver has been able to do what he can in that car for the last year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So,
and good to see Red Bull give Yuki some new parts for his car as well. I think they replaced the floor and something else in Yuki's car. And Yuki has worked with Laurent in the past, of course. So, yeah, it might be the start of a more settled Red Bull racing team.
Yeah, it definitely gave me the warm fuzzies, because I feel like Yuki will get a heck of a lot more support and encouragement from Laurent, who he already has a great working relationship with, than he would have with Horner. especially if Horner was under pressure because because manure was hitting the fan. Hadn't at Red Bull, I feel like he wouldn't have exactly been the greatest, most understanding team boss at that point in time. So then for Yuki to have a little bit more familiarity, and Laurent seems like a really lovely guy too. You know, I put him in the category of like maybe a little bit more of a hard ass Vals.
Yeah, like a Fred Vasseur kind of.
Fred.
Yeah, that's how I picture. Yeah, that's how I picture. Laurent. Great to see Gabrielle Bortoletto, one team, not two, finish in the points as well. I thought that was brilliant. Liam Lawson finished in the points, so he's looking like
his confidence is back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And he finished higher than Yuki, who I think got kind of mucked around with strategy and during the race. So Yuki finished in 13th, Liam Lawson in 8th. I haven't really heard much chatter about Franco Colapinto in recent times either. So not really sure. I guess Alpine are just maintaining the status quo with him, and that whole thing of him having 5 or 6 races with the team was just PR spin and not any truth to it, or they've decided to just keep going with Franco. Don't really know. There's been no official announcement that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
No.
I did hear on the broadcast, they were obviously chatting about Colapinto, and I was looking at the standings only just before the race, and Colapinto and Doohan so far are the only 2 people in this year's Formula One lineup who have not scored a single point. And Doohan only had 5 races, if that. Colapinto's had a few more, so but the Alpine are plumb last in the Constructors' Championship because of it. That second seat is not converting. Gasly has scored points at different parts of the season so far, but that second seat is not really doing much at the moment.
No, Pierre Gasly finished 10th, of course, in Belgium, so finished in the points, which is great to see. So after the Belgian Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri's still leading the Drivers' Championship, and he is 16 points ahead of his teammate Lando Norris in the other McLaren. And then in third place is Max Verstappen, who's on 185. Maths 266 minus 185 is about. Let me just figure it out.
I'm just sitting here quietly. I didn't sleep enough last night to be doing math like that in my head, Diane. I write
81 points. So
31 points. Yes, okay.
81 points behind Oscar.
31.
And then in fourth place is George Russell on 157, and then Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and on 139, and then Lewis in sixth place on 109. And there's a big gap. In seventh place is Kimi Antonelli on 63 points. So, it really is a fight between the 2 McLarens. And then third place looks like it'll go to Max, but you just never know. George Russell, can't count him out.
Yeah, and now that Charles had a great week this week as well, so you never know. It could change. And then constructors, we may as well
McLaren
not even...
all the way. Oh my God, it's so McLaren will win the Constructors' Championship. I don't even know. I mean, mathematically, maybe there's a chance that they won't, but they're on 516. They're ahead by a mile. But then the battle will really be for second, third and fourth. So in second place is Ferrari on 248, Mercedes on 220, so 28 points difference there, and then Red Bull on 192. Then a bit of a gap with Williams, the best of the rest, on 70 points. So a great result for Williams so far. So let's just, we're just over the halfway point of the season. So there's still a lot of points on the table, a lot to play for, and just have to see how it goes.
All right. Should we talk a little bit about Belgium?
Belgium, the country, yes.
No, Belgium, the food.
So, well, we could talk about Belgium, the food, because I did see a little picture on Instagram, Monique. There'd be some cooking going on in your house.
Yes, we will get to that. But yeah, Belgium, I was trying to rack my brain and I was like, have I been to Belgium before? And I have. And I was 17, which was like obviously 3 years ago. So I remember it really, really well. I was 17. So oh my gosh, that's more than 17 years ago now. And I actually went to Bruges of all places.
Yeah, I've been to Bruges as well and Brussels. So I've been to both. And my impressions of Belgium were, why would you have mussels as a national dish in a landlocked country? That really confused me.
Yes.
Moules and frites, mussels and fries. But yes, I did remember the chocolate. I remember the beer. I remember it being really beautiful, the architecture.
It is.
And Bruges being very quaint, gorgeous, a little walkable village, I guess. Yeah.
Do you know what the
pretty.
worst part for me is? Because I was 17, it was my first trip ever to Europe. And
Wow.
I
You
know.
went on your own as a 17-year-old.
I did. And believe it or not, it was my grandfather who was like, you need to let her go and see the world. So my Mauritian
as a
grandfather.
17-year-old. My God.
And I remember we chose Bruges because it was, at the time, one of our favourite movies was In Bruges with Colin Farrell. And so that was one of the reasons we chose it. And unfortunately, all I can remember from like the 2 days we were there, because I'm pretty sure we got there, we were absolutely exhausted. So I remember the hotel room. I remember texting my mum because we didn't have iPhones back then. I had a little Motorola flip phone, and I remember buying such cheap vodka from a roadside cart. That is what I remember of Bruges, unfortunately. I'm sure I would have remembered like the beautiful architecture if I was a little bit older and had appreciation for that sort of thing, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, well, I was in my 20s, so it was more than 17 years ago when I was there last, but just a country that, I don't know, I suppose it doesn't draw in the tourists like surrounding countries, you know, even Amsterdam, you know, I think it is a bit more popular on the tourist trail than Bruges or Brussels, but very amenable for visitors.
I wonder what it's like price-wise these days because, like I said, back in, it was the early 2000s when I was there, we were buying the cheapest vodka. Like it was so cheap. But, you know, obviously with a lot of Europe on the euro now, everything kind of evening out price-wise, and it's getting harder and harder to find those kind of areas or places where, you know, you can get, you're not going to basically overextend yourself trying to be there. So,
the cheaper countries are the non-EU countries, without a doubt, and every traveller has said so. So, and funny enough, I feel like those countries are the countries that become the next hotspots, you know.
Like Albania, Montenegro.
Like Slovenia, even Georgia, like, you know.
Yeah, Georgia's so cheap and it's so good, the food, oh my gosh. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Belgium. So,
another fun fact of Belgium, it's almost completely flat.
So we did obviously mention mole clips, and you said that you saw a little photo on my Instagram of cooking for the Belgian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, it wasn't mole clip, which also, I find it really interesting that everyone thinks that that's a French dish, but it's not. It's Belgian. That is where you go for good mole clips. Well, also France, but anyway, that is where it is the national dish. So unfortunately, I did not cook that because Espen does not like seafood. But we did have a little waffle moment because Belgium is also known for its waffles. Now, we kind of ad-libbed a little bit because Espen cannot get out of his mind that waffles need to be eaten with brunost, which is a Norwegian brown cheese. It's a very sweet, tart kind of cheese. And
I love how you just cater every meal to Espen. Like, Espen doesn't like this, so we don't have this. Espen doesn't like that, so we don't have that.
Yeah, well, seafood's very polarizing, especially mussel. So that's something that I'm not going to cook. Maybe if it was prawns, sure, he'd eat that. But we did the waffles and it was such a nice morning dish because normally I'll cook a dinner. So it was fun to do breakfast again also because he actually cooked the waffles. So that was really fun.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yay. Points for that.
Yes, exactly. And I did ask if I should buy some chocolate to put on top of the waffle because Belgium is also known for its chocolate. I didn't ask if he wanted beer for breakfast. Should have. We didn't have the chocolate, but I guess if anyone is on the fence about whether or not they should go to Belgium, think about the food. The food. I'd go just for waffles, chocolate, and mailto.
Yeah, I've got to admit that I love mussels. I love seafood, and I was very excited about mailfrits when I was in Belgium, and I just didn't get a very good example of that where we ate. It was the mussels were gritty. It was just an unpleasant eating experience, and it kind of put me off. It put me off. Yeah, I know, but it's just one of those things. It happens, doesn't it? But the chocolate was good. The beer was good. I remember that. I do remember seeing waffles everywhere.
The best mailfrit that I've ever had, weirdly enough, was in Gothenburg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably, that's a port town, right? So that's, on the sea. So I guess but this is a perplexing thing about Belgium is that it's landlocked, right? So why is mussels, just confuses me. Why, mussels, how did it become a national dish? All right. Well, the last fun fact about Belgium is that it's got 3 national languages. So, they speak Flemish, Dutch, and French.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Brilliant. So next week we're in Budapest and then it's the summer break. So Monique, predictions for Budapest, 1, 2, 3.
Predictions, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say we're in Budapest. I'm going to say I just can't not say Piastri. And then I'm going to say let's go Charles and then Norris.
Okay. I'm going to say Piastri, Norris in second because Budapest is where he got his first win. Can you believe that last year he got his first win in Budapest? It's crazy to think. And same with Oscar, his first win ever last year, and now they're fighting at the pointy end of the championship. Just crazy how quickly the sport changes. Yes. Okay. So Oscar in the McLaren, Lando in the McLaren in second, and I'm going to go George Russell in third.
Oh, nice.
I'd love to see the Ferraris up there, but I just got a feeling that George might pull something out of the bag.
Yeah. You never know with that third position on the podium, do you? You just never know.
No.
All right. That's about all for this week. So if you guys liked what you listened to or watched, if you are watching us on YouTube, you can like, rate, review, leave comments, whatever you like on our episodes on any of your podcast listening apps or on YouTube. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I was going to say YouTube. You already know that. And TikTok. And you can email us at andawaywegof1podcast@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Mon. And thank you, everybody, for having us in your ears. Until next week and until lights out.
It's lights out and away we go.
And Away We Go podcast is produced by Diane Bortoletto and Monique Ciccato.
Let's do it.